2 years in the making, lots of math, simplified to the minimum requirements so you too can compare any mat out there. I made a calculator that will allow you to do that. For example, 65, 20 coils. And I created this calculator so both you and me can speak with some kind of intelligence when it comes to compare different devices. We can actually physically see it on the screen of a computer what makes a good PMF device, a mediocre one, even a poor one. I'm going to show you, the calculator will show you how Gauss is not everything, Weber is not everything, slew rate is not everything, but how they all harmonize and come together at the end. So by the time we're done today, you will understand the symbiotic relationship between all these weird things I've been talking about forever. The Gauss per second, the slew rate, the Weber, Gauss. You finally gonna get it. And then using my calculator, you're gonna be able to compare anything you want. Okay, most of you, 99.999% of the people watching this video right now, plug your ears. You don't want to listen to what I have to say for the next 30 seconds. For the rest of you, physicist, mathematician, pretend to be PMF expert, I understand that you need to know the Henry to get an accurate measurement of a coil. That's just example number one. I know you need to know the amp per second, example number two. We can go on and on and on like that with 1,000 examples why my formulas that I'm using are not applied properly. Take a step back. This is not a university level physics class. This is principle to understand what makes a good PMF mat to apply to a biological being. All right? So, just have fun, just relax, and take it easy. Enjoy. The Gauss. Simply put, the Gauss is describe one flux line, and it's the pressure that one flux line has. Watch this. We have a magnet here. Let's assume the magnet is 10 Gauss. So every single flux line it makes would have 10 Gauss. A Gauss is like a foot, a degree Fahrenheit, a degree Celsius, a pound, a kilogram. It's not something that you can hold on. It's something that describes something. In this case, it describes the pressure that flux line has. If I had another magnet to it like that, let's say the other magnet is 10 Gauss, I'd still only be making 10 Gauss. That's literally all a Gauss tells you, is how much quote-unquote pressure one flux line is. Now we're talking about coil diameter and number of coil. So how do you find that? Well, you can go to the internet and they've got PMF device comparison chart all over the place, right? And then you can get the data there that we can input into the calculator. This one right here, let's say that we took the Beamer Classic, it gives you the Gauss, right? So 0.35 Gauss, and then 6 copper coil. So if we go back here, and I don't know why they said 0.35, I know it's about 3 Gauss they make, and the number of coil is 6. Now, if you don't know the coil diameter, you can look at pictures and stuff like that and then just kind of get the gist of it. I've taken a Beamer apart, and if my memory serves me right, the coils are about 16 millimeter in diameter. Like, they're very small, okay? So this is how I get stuff. Get a slew rate. I made a little chart on the side right here that gives us in second the slew rate. The ZK and the cellular rate is that many seconds it takes to turn it on and off. That's all the slew rate is, people, okay? I know there's a lot that goes down to this, but we're not going to worry about the detail. I measure them for us, so we just keep them right here. So the Nexion has a slightly faster slew rate just because of the advantages of the MOSFET in it. Now the alpha wave also has a square wave, but look at it, how much slower it is. Let me show you how I came to that. So here we have a picture of the ZK, and it's a 200 nanosecond division, and it took 8 of them to get to peak power. So 8 times 200 is 1600. And then here's a little formula, and that gives us the total number of seconds it takes. And then using the oscilloscope, you do the same thing. This is the alpha wave. This is just to show, guys, that not all square waves are equal. Some are faster than others, right? If you zoom hard enough, you always get to measure how long it takes for something to come on. Why is this important? You'll see in a second. Before we move on, I want to make a little disclaimer again. I'm measuring the slew rate of the MOSFET, and I know you're supposed to measure the slew rate of the magnetic field, right? But for that you need the Henry. Remember I said we're going to keep it simple, so that way we're measuring everybody based on the same factors. And yes, there's going to be variance to that, but we're going to be in the ballpark, people, okay? So just once again, smell the flowers and relax. Okay, let's go back to our calculator. So 3 Gauss, 60 coil, 60 millimeter diameter, 6 coil, that's the beamer. And beamer tells us to use a sine wave. So if you go up here, you got a 60 hertz sine wave. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they have a really fast sine wave. So we punch that in there, okay? Then now here it gives us Weber and flux line. So let's talk about those two first of all right? So let's go back to this guy right here. Okay, so now what we see is our old magnet, and we have 4 flux line. So let's say I was laying right here, okay? That was me on my mat. So it doesn't work like that, but just for the ease of doing the math, would be like 1, 2, 3, 4 Webers would be exposed to me. There's like 100 million flux line in 1 Weber, by the way. Okay, so if I add more magnet, more coils, more turn on my donut shaped coil, I would now be exposed to like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Weber, right? 10 flux line. If I add more, there's more again, right? So now all of a sudden you're right here and you're exposed to a truckload of flux line. Now why this is important is because, for lack of a better word, you need 1 flux line to activate 1 cell. So every pulse that your PEMF mat makes, how many flux lines are present during that pulse will be how much cellular interaction you're having with your mat. That's basically, quickly, the bottoms of it, okay? So let's go back to the calculator and check out the numbers we get. So in this case, we get 0.05 Weber of 508 flux line. Now I'd like to make a quick note. I calculate the Weber in Gauss, not in Tesla, so we have numbers that are easier to read, because we don't want to start dealing with nano and pico and micro numbers. It's too confusing, right? So I just put everybody on the same base. We measure the Weber in Gauss unit, not in Tesla unit. That just means I divided the Weber calculation by 10,000. But everybody's on the same benchmark, so everything should work just fine. Let's talk about EMF now, all right? Have you ever noticed it's called a PEMF mat, not a PGauss mat? So how come every industry out there tells us all the time how many Gauss they make, but not how much EMF they make? You'd think it'd be pretty important. Well, I think it is too. So let me give you a quick example of what EMF is, right? We're going to keep it light and simple, right? But before I go to the light and simple one, I just want to show something right away here so the trolls leaves us alone in the comment. Now, for the rest of us that have our feet on the ground and we just want to know how things work, but without getting too deep into the rabbit hole, right? Imagine, if you wish, a bunch of swings. And you may have a big fan behind that pushes a lot of air. Gust of air will make it pulse, like the PEMF. And the swings will represent your cells in your body. Now, as the gust of wind created by the fan comes and hits the swing will move a little bit, right? So there's always loss. Our body's not really efficient at turning that EMF into jolts of electricity. So when you're going to see big numbers on a calculator, don't worry too much about it. It doesn't mean that electricity is going through. It's just a potential, right? And then whatever a body can take, it will. Now, caveat to that, those super high Gauss one, like 20,000 Gauss and 15,000 Gauss, the EMF is so big that it induces voltage in your cell and your muscle fibers, which makes them twitch. It overcomes your brain power. It's the same thing as being electrocuted, basically. Why is EMF important? Well, to put it simply, EMF is basically the magic behind PEMF. And having good EMF is what a good mat should give you. Something that is balanced and organized for you, for your body, right? So it'll improve your circulation. It'll reduce pain. It'll heal your bone. It'll make you heal faster. It promotes ATP. Like the story goes on and on and on. It's like the fountain of youth if you have a good system, right? It makes you recover faster. So EMF is the magic sauce, right? So here's an example. So 65 Gauss, 110 millimeter diameter, and let's go with 10 coil, and we're going to give it the slew rate of the ZK. So now we have 6.1 Gauss Weber, or 61,000 flux line. Remember, those flux line is what we need to heal. And we're getting 3,431 volt EMF. I tell you, is that a good number or a bad number? We'll compare in a few minutes, okay? But this is basically the WUMFA. Now, we're moving on to Gauss per second next. I say this to people all the time. Science is terrible at naming stuff, right? But Gauss and Gauss per second is what miles and miles per hour are. So if I tell you 10 miles, you know it's a unit of distance. If I tell you 10 miles an hour, you know that's the speed at which I'm traveling. So Gauss is the pressure of one flux line, and Gauss per second is speed. Speed of what? Let me show you the speed of what, and this is going to make so much sense now, all right? So first of all, let's turn on our magnetic flux line around, and let's just say every flux line is 10 Gauss, okay? And then right now, for the ease of learning, we're going to go that this piece right here is our cell, and the light bulb will represent energy being transferred into that cell. Okay, so we got 10... I don't remember what I said. Let's just say 10 Gauss per flux line. And then there's 4 flux line right now, so you'd be exposed to 4 Weber. Right now, because nothing is moving, the Gauss per second is 0. And the light bulb is not coming on. Now, if I increases the speed at which the magnetic flux line moves, let's just say 100 Gauss per second. We'll go halfway. So now I still have 10 Gauss per flux line, 4 Weber, but I have 100 Gauss per second. That's how fast they move by. It's a little more complicated than that, but you get the gist of it, okay? Here we are. Let's double the speed to, let's say, 200. Look how much brighter the bulb is, right? And that's because of Faraday's laws of induction, that the field has to move to induce a current. And the current is that EMF that we're talking about into your cells. So, 0 Gauss per second, very weak. Let's just go to 10 Gauss per second. Remember, right now I got 10 Gauss per second, every flux line is 10 Gauss, and I still have 4 Weber, and the light bulb barely lights up. If we go to 50 Gauss per second, still only 10 Gauss per flux line, and 4 Weber, but now we're going by our cells at 50 Gauss per second. And then we go to 200 Gauss per second. See the difference? I told you it wasn't that complicated. Okay, finally, let's have some fun. Let's put this calculator to good use. Let's run some example. Put a good hat on, get something to drink, and let's just start making some comparison with some stuff. All right, let's go. Especially now that you know what all the numbers mean, right? So let's go at it. So let's start with the beamer. 3 Gauss, 60 ml diameter. They have 6 coils, and they're using the sine wave, and we'll give them a 60 Hertz sine wave for right now. Okay, 0.05 Weber of 508 flux line. And the volt EMF is 0073, and then 72 Gauss per second. So let's take a picture of this so we can compare it down the road. Okay, let's do the centropic cloud. Okay, so they got 8 coil, they use the sine, and they have 2 Gauss. Sheet 3, so 2 Gauss will give them the sine wave. They got this really funky stuff. I'm supposed to get one. We're going to test it, and I will post the result of that one for sure. And they got 8 coils. Now watch what's going to happen when you put 8 coils. Do you see how the flux line increases? That's because there's only one way to get more flux line is to have more Weber. More Weber requires more coils. I mean, it's just more turns, more like you just need more copper basically, right? It's the only way around. Now, the slew rate is what dictates the EMF, by the way, right? So let's compare the Gauss, the centropic to the beamer. Now, by the way, this number right here, it's exponential minus 8, so there's 7 zeros in front of this, so 0.00007 times 8. Okay, this one is 6, so we have a higher score on this one because no, a higher score right here because we have a bigger number because we got more coils, right? Now their coils are a little bit bigger too. I think their coils is probably 150. And I'm guessing right now based on the website when they draw it. So we'll give the benefit of the doubt there again, right? Once again, like I said, this is designed for us to have fun and play around. It's like a simulator so we can compare stuff. Now, the total score right here, remember what I was telling you guys? The total score is basically the Weber times the EMF times the Gauss per second, and then a percentage of the coil surface coverage, right, of the mat. That's what basically the score is. And everybody scores the same. Like, it's all in the same benchmark. It's not out of 100. It's just a score. Now, it's also an exponential thing. So, yeah. All right, let's go with something. We'll just create a device, okay? 500 Gauss, and we have 110 diameter coil. And we'll go with 8 coil because that's pretty much the max you'll find out there, right? And let's give them a capacitor slew rate. We'll go with that, okay? Now, I know there's a harmonic, and I'm not calculating to the 5th harmonic and blah, 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 and the whole thing. Just don't worry about that. Okay. Now, you can see, let's bring the this back. So 500 Gauss to 3 Gauss, and that gives us 38 Weber versus 0.05 Weber, or 380,000 flux line. Now we're getting into some good numbers, right? The volt EMF is at 63, and then we have 104,000 Gauss per second versus 72. Now, a lot of the time, people will be like, oh, so the beamer stuff is bad. And I'll tell you the same thing I tell everybody else, okay? Let's say you haven't been eating for a week. You're one of those crazy shows on TV where you starve yourself to win the first prize like Alone. and Mr. Beamer comes along and gives you an apple. Is that going to hurt you? No, of course not. It's not going to hurt you at all. By the way, I've heard some other salespeople from other PMF company tell other people that if they don't use their device, the other one gives cancer. The fear tactic is just incredible. Everything to make a buck. So Mr. Beamer comes along, you haven't been eating for 3 days, and gives you an apple. Of course it's going to help you. It's unfortunate because you need maybe a little more of an apple, right? But hey, an apple is an apple. You're in a cave, it's fully dark, and somebody gives you a candle. It's freaking awesome. You got a candle. It's better than what you had before, right? I think it's an expensive candle, that's for sure, right? But it still is going to help you. Now, we have LED flashlight nowadays, so why not use that? We also know we should eat a more balanced meal, like a steak, potato, and meat and stuff like that. So the second example I gave you with the 500 Gauss, that would be more like a soup and sandwich kind of thing, right? So that would help you a little more. Let's carry on our example. I want to show you that not everything is about Gauss. So let's put 2500 Gauss, and those high powered one, they have a pretty big loop, right? So we'll give them like a let's just go with a half a meter loop, so like a 1.5 foot loop there, and they got one, and they're also using the capacitor, right? So that's the capacitor speed. So now all of a sudden you're starting to see that there's quite a bit of goodness in that. And if we compare that to, go back to the Beamer, we have a much higher score of 94. We have the Gauss per second is like 500,000, right? And we have 102 volts EMF. And we have like a beautiful score of 94. Now, this score doesn't give you the full picture of everything else. It gives us an idea of what's what, right? But remember, covering the whole body is really, really important to balance the stuff. The loop will be incredible for that purpose, right? So if we lower this to 250 and give 2 loops, right, you get a lower score even though we haven't changed anything, and we got the same like that. So you can kind of get to see that the score is just an idea of what's happening, right? So we just have to be careful about, just take everything with a grain of salt. It's a guide. It's just something. It's a world premiere, guys, okay? And I've been working really hard for a couple of years to create this, to make it simple and usable and friendly, okay? Now, let's build a mat that I'm making, okay? So we got 60 Gauss, and we have a 110 millimeter diameter coil, and we have 15 coils, and we have the slew rate of the Nexion. Okay, actually, let's build the cellular rate. This is the cellular rate, by the way. Okay, let's take a picture of that. And I have nothing but nice thing to say about the cellular rate, by the way. It's really well balanced. The price is incredible for what you're getting. Commercial product. I mean, they've done really good work, okay? So, okay, we got this. Now, let's compare it to the mat that I make like this. Okay. And you're going to see there's a slight increase in Gauss, okay? It's just design thing. At this point, it doesn't, like 10 Gauss when you're like, it's okay. The Weber is higher because we have more coils, right? So there's more flux line. The volt EMF is also higher because there's more coils, right? And the Gauss per second also increases a little bit because there's more Gauss. So when you put all that together, it makes an exponential. That's why the score jumps to 82 from 39, right? So anything in the green, I think it's a good score overall. So you get lots of good stuff out of this. Now, that gave me the idea, right? What if I was doing 20 coils? Do you see what just happened? Like, it's incredible what just happened, right? So now all of a sudden we have quite a bit more Weber. The volt EMF also increase, and look at the score, how much greater the score goes, right? At the end of the day, right, if you can maximize on the stuff and you balance it, you're going to get a good product, right? So we need to focus on having a good EMF and a good Gauss per second. And how do you get that? Is with a good slew rate, a square wave, and having lots of copper. That's the trick, basically, okay? And having lots of copper costs a lot of money. Now, watch this. If I give the slew rate of the alpha wave, whoops, equals alpha wave. And then we go, you see like the score went down, right? So you don't have as fast of a square wave now. And the alpha wave has 8 coils, and it makes 20 Gauss per coil. And their coil is, I know they're going to say they're bigger, but the outside is useless. So the only usable part is the inside anyway, which is 120. So now all of a sudden, you're getting yourself a mat. That's from China. That's just a Chinese factory that builds it, you know, just like many others. Just one of the better one out there from that pile that has come from China. But look at the difference all of a sudden. So it has a good square wave, right? It's better than a sine wave. And I will talk on future videos about the sawtooth and all that stuff, and you're going to see why I don't include those into this. So look at the flux line. Like here we have the cellular rate, right? It's got like way more flux line, and it's got the Gauss per second is much higher, right? So is the volt EMF. It's quite a bit higher, like quite a bit, right? And that's where you get a score of almost 40, and here you get a score of 0.4. So this mat is better than the Beamer by a long shot. That's for sure, and it's for a fraction of the price too. So, you know, it's just who knows where these companies going to go down the road. Now, there's going to be a lot of people watching this video, and I want you guys to know that this video I made was for you, the person that wants to know why not all PMF are equal. Nobody out there can tell you. They're always telling you, well, my PMF is better because we have proprietary frequencies, which, by the way, means nothing, right? PEMF. How much EMF is your mat making? That's really what it comes down to, right? What is your Gauss per second? Now, you guys going to be armed to understand and see and discover those from the companies. You'll know more about those people's mat than they know themselves. You that have listened to this video right now, you understand PMF light years ahead of everybody else, okay? So this is my gift to you. I've worked really hard for the last 2 years to come up with this calculator, and there it is. Like I said, I don't know where I'm going to have it yet, because it is a bloody nightmare. I'm going to probably post it on my website. But anyway, so there's going to be another small group of people watching these videos, and they're the people that see me as a threat, see me as somebody that's disrupting the PMF industry. I am the ass that tells the magician trick for everybody to know, right? Well, I got to tell you, those people are usually not well liked by the other magician. But you know what? This forces the magician to become with better magic trick, right? So I'm forcing the industry to create better PEMF. I'm hoping that this knowledge, right, that I'm standing on the shoulders of giants right away. You know, like, just so you guys know, right, all this stuff that I'm doing, I did not invent it, right? It's there already. I'm just trying to make it understandable for you guys. That's it. So all those physicists out there, all those PMF professional out there that think they know everything about PMF, and all they've been is brainwashed by their company's sales pitch, right? Welcome to the new world. Welcome to a new era where we're actually applying science to this field. PMF is a wonderful, wonderful technology, and I wish it was not full of snake oil salespeople. That's really what I wish, right? Like I said, some of them are pretty expensive apples. Are they bad? No. But man alive, we can do better. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and it's going to be a lot more on the calculator. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have all kinds of comment about how wrong I am and this and that and the whole thing. I'm not going to worry about it. That's fine. If anybody can come up with something better and have inspired people, by all means, just freaking do it. You want to collab with me and try to make this better and more appropriate? Yes, we can do that. But remember, I have one goal and one goal only. Be able to explain it to a 6-year-old so he or she can understand it. That's really what I'm trying to do here. So, be safe. We'll see you soon, and have a good day.